We met briefly outside.
Yeah, now I have makeup on, so.
Oh, you look exactly the same. Trust me. I mean, do you wake up early with your schedule too?
Sometimes, and too. I'm
yeah.
on Robin Mead's show sometimes filling in. So
oh, there
that's
you go.
2 a.m. wake up.
So you know. Oh, let me put this camera over, or the.
Would you mind taking a picture?
Not at all.
Okay, come this
sorry.
way. No. Okay, there you go.
Oh, this is really cool.
Isn't it neat? This is Google+.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool little social media thing that we're doing here. Let me turn this volume down. And
Sorry, 1, 2.
Thank you.
Yay.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've heard of Google+ yet. But it's,
No, not too much about it.
Well, it's a how can I explain? There's about 100 million registered Google Plusers right now, and what it is, it's kind of like Facebook, Twitter, all the social media is combined in one, married to Skype.
Okay.
So it allows us to hang out with several people in the Hangout session. If there's about 10 people maximum that can hang out. But we have the ability to broadcast to all the other Google Plus users, so potentially they'll be seeing this, all of them, almost 100 million. So,
oh my gosh.
I know, so isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So we've got people in the Hangout from all over the world. We've got Lord Miles Parker from the UK, down here. We've got Gina, she's from Philadelphia. Trey, who is from Detroit. Sudesh is in India.
Wow.
And we have Stephen from Canada. So these are our vetted, FCC approved, we like to call them. So they're good people. And we usually open it up to them to ask you some questions. But I just want to set up, if you're just joining us here on our Google Plus Hangout. Yeah, here's a little thing. It's Maria from the Fox11 newsroom here in Los Angeles. It's Wednesday, and I am joined by Bonnie Schneider. You may have seen her. She's a familiar face, I know, to me, if you watch CNN or Headline News.
Yeah, and I also have a special on the DIY Network coming on March 30th. It's all about, and actually was shot here in California. It was how to retrofit your home for earthquakes.
Yes.
Kind of combining extreme weather and, keeping your home safe and weatherproof.
Absolutely. Well, Bonnie's here because she is going around the country talking about your new book, which is called Extreme Weather. And
I would show a copy, but I gave it to the host.
You just darn it.
We'd get another copy here.
Okay, well, we can get another copy.
Okay.
But anyway, this is everyone from Google Plus, and let's open it up to everyone. If you're just joining us, to get your question ready. And I have a quick question. So your research on this book, did you travel to all different parts of the country? Obviously.
No, I actually did everything online. I didn't travel.
Isn't that great? Social media.
Social media. And I have a chapter on how to use social media in my book, on how to use social media in natural disasters. So I used it myself to find people to talk to message them. I have a kind of a funny story on Facebook. I sent a note to a Katrina survivor, and when I sent her the message, I found her in a Katrina page about the storm. And she said, if you are the real Bonnie Schneider, I will talk to you. If you're some kind of imposter, I won't.
Oh, well, there you go.
And
I was, you're in.
Yeah. So, that's how it went. I found a lot of people through social media to interview for this book.
Excellent. I know you guys have a couple questions. Lord Parker. Lord Parker is from the UK.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Bonnie. Yeah, in 1987, think back, it's quite some way ago now, there was a famous storm in the UK, shall we say, that the weather guy said that he'd heard on the radio that there was going to be a hurricane that night, and that everyone shouldn't need to worry about it because it's not going to happen. That night, it was the biggest storm the UK's ever faced. One of the biggest faux pas in weather presenting history, I think, in the UK. Have you ever made a faux pas like that in your history, or do you know of any?
Well, I've heard of some. I haven't really. I did local news for years before I did CNN, so I was more concentrated. I worked a lot in the Northeast, and we were forecasting snowstorms, and there was always a lot of pressure to get it right, how many inches of snow you'd receive.
There still is today.
Yeah.
Every day I get it.
And I can remember there definitely was some fluctuation, and sometimes it's a last-minute change. There's a little pocket of warmer air. You just get a little more rain than snow. So we have the pressure to get it right, and I know that there's been times, I'm sure, I don't remember them all, where maybe I haven't gotten it right perfectly, but I think the accuracy has improved probably a lot since 1987.
Significantly.
Yeah.
That brings me, I used to do the weather in Honolulu, and right before I started doing the weather, we had a hurricane that was kind of a similar scenario, actually. There was a hurricane forecast to hit the islands, and this was some 20-something years ago, whatever it was, and there was one meteorologist who refused to follow the National Weather Service. And I will have to tell you guys, for me, I always, those guys get paid a lot of money to watch the weather maps and watch exactly what's going on 24/7. So I always refer to them at the end. But there was one meteorologist in Hawaii that kept saying, no, there's not going to be a hurricane. Or I think it was the other way around. Yes, there's going to be a hurricane that's going to hit. Yes, yes, yes. And of course it didn't. And then I guess some people sued them because they had stopped business. Like everyone had something like this. So there was an actual lawsuit. So, but like you said, technology has gotten a lot better. And depending on who you are, I don't think that person really followed.
Yeah, especially with hurricanes, and I'm sure you do that here. We're following the National Hurricane Center.
Exactly.
And their forecast track, and we're not going to change that track. We will talk about the fact that when you're looking at a hurricane track, you can't just follow that one line. You have the cone of uncertainty.
Exactly.
So there is fluctuation, but I agree. I think it's important to stay on target with the Weather Service. Local forecasters are always going to put, a localized spin on it, but that's important because they also understand the local climate. And I worked at News 12 Long Island in New York, and it was amazing. From the North Shore to the South Shore, 11 miles, you could have pure snow or you could have rain. So you have to kind of know the geography of your area.
Absolutely. That's like here in Southern California. I mean, we have snow. It's the only place where you can go skiing, and then in the next 2 hours you could be surfing. That's the beauty of our Southern California weather. We have a little bit of weather outside. Well, the clouds are coming in. No real rain.
And it was so windy when I got here a couple days ago. I actually spoke at Google, since we're on Google Chat. I can say that.
That's right.
Yeah, in Venice, at their Venice Beach office, which was pretty interesting. Yeah. So, no, I agree. I mean, the weather here, wind is a big factor here in California, whether you're talking about Santa Ana's or just, winds coming in from the ocean, from the storms. So we're seeing that here. And in my book, I talk a lot about how to prepare against wind and against one of the threats that wind tends to enhance here, which is wildfires. So
talk about your book a little bit, because it is about preparing for these weather disasters.
Yes.
And we take a lot of this for granted, don't we?
Yeah, I think we do.
We talk about preparation all the time, and you'd be surprised who is not prepared. So
I think that people often are not aware of what the forecast is, and that's usually the worst. From what I've researched and the people I've interviewed, the people that were caught off guard were in the worst situation, and that's why I wanted to offer preparedness advice. One gentleman I spoke to in the Washington, D.C. area was driving home from work, and he found himself on a normal commute that was 50 minutes, taking 11 hours because he was stuck in a snowstorm. And so many people in the wildfire chapter, and I covered Malibu in 2007, had heard there was a fire, but when that knock at the door came and they said, you have minutes, get out, they didn't know what to do. They were frozen. So there's important things you can do to prepare if you're in an area that's at risk, and that's really a huge part of this. If you're in an area that's susceptible to a landslide, susceptible to flash floods, make sure you're prepared for that worst case scenario, because if you have to evacuate, sometimes you really just have minutes. So I have a checklist in the book on what to have with you, what to take with you, and every chapter has advice on animals and how to care for your pets in that situation too. It's very important because sometimes they're an afterthought, and if you have to go to a shelter and you have a cardboard box and it's filled with your cats, they're not going to accept you. You need to have a proper carrier, and there's a lot of tips you can do with that too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Trey?
Bonnie, we here in Detroit, we haven't had a major snowstorm yet. And when I say major, I'm talking about closing schools and things to that degree. And a lot of parts of the country have been seeing extreme weather, and that leads me to my question of, do you think global warming is real? There's a lot of debate among meteorologists who agree and disagree about this. I'd love to hear your position.
That's a really good question.
And I get that question a lot. I'm sure you do as well. I think that the climate is changing, and we have evidence of that. I think that the degree in which humans are causing the change, that tends to be the debate. But one thing I can tell you is that extreme weather is getting worse. Last year we had 14 natural disasters that cost the U.S. billions of dollars in damage. Over 1,000 people died, and the tornado outbreaks really were the worst. I mean, when you talk about two major EF5 tornadoes, 200-mile-per-hour winds in Tuscaloosa and Joplin in April and May, 552 people lost their lives last year in tornadoes. So I think that extreme weather is becoming a bigger problem, and it's impacting more people because we're more populated in these areas.
And there are more people.
Exactly, exactly. So I think that whether or not you believe that climate change is the cause of that, and that depends on your opinion in terms of climatologists that have been studying this for thousands of years. And meteorologists tend to focus more on a smaller scale because that's what we're doing. We're not focusing on what's happened thousands of years ago. We're focusing on what's happened maybe in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So you will see some variance in opinion there, but the important thing to note is that there is more extreme weather and you need to be prepared for it.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions?
One more.
Okay.
When it comes to extreme weather, there's different forms of extreme weather. You can have these wildfires, you can have snowstorms, things like that. What are the top items that you suggest that people have in their home to ride out these events?
That's a really good question. The number one thing you should have is a no-weather radio. I don't know if I can see all of you, but does anyone have that? You raise your hand. A no-weather radio? Okay, so about half.
Good.
Yeah, that's pretty
Gina
good.
has one. Trey actually has one.
Okay. Well, no-weather radio is really important because it's not just a regular radio that we listen to. It has a special frequency from the National Weather Service to broadcast watches and warnings. And the reason we want to have that is because just recently, I mentioned out Tuscaloosa, just a month ago, there were more tornadoes in northern Alabama, and they happened in the middle of the night. So it's very important to have your radio turned on to an alert mode, so it'll turn on and wake you up. If your county is under a watch or a warning, that will give you the time you need to prepare, even in the middle of the night when you're asleep. So that radio is key to alert you during a storm and even in advance of a storm if you're planning to travel. A lot of the people I talked to for this book found themselves in a flood situation or a situation where they were on vacation and they weren't expecting the weather. So you have to check it before you go. And just be prepared before you venture out anywhere. So that would be my number one item to have at home. And if you also are interested in having emergency supplies like 3 days of food, 3 days of water per person, per household, include your animals in that. Keep in mind if you have prescriptions to have those as well. If you have someone at home that's elderly or with special needs, also think about how they would evacuate if you had to get them out quickly. And other items to have in mind, of course, is anything to see, like a flashlight with batteries and basics like that. But you'd be surprised that there are some things that we forget, like a manual can opener. If you keep all these cans, you don't want to rely on the electric one. I know I have a manual can opener.
I have a manual.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have the electric one. So just things like that. Don't forget. You don't want to be caught off guard. And also in your car, keep an emergency supply kit as well. If you live in a cold weather area, maybe not so much here in LA, but
we get it here
you
too.
get but if you drive up into the mountains, you want to make sure you have your blanket and things like that in case you're caught in the snow. A lot of people do. You always hear stories like that. Somebody looking for a Christmas tree and they get caught off on the highway in a snowstorm.
That I don't have. My dad is really good. He has like one of those little boxes in his car and it's got everything in there.
Right.
He's so good. I tend to pick at it. Like I grab stuff and all of a sudden now it's got nothing in it. So I'm one of the guilty ones. So I definitely need to be even more prepared and check on my emergency kit. You can order it online.
Yeah, they have them. They have them online. I actually went to different stores and put one together for myself, and it's really not that hard to do. It doesn't take that much time. And keep in mind also, just want to mention, for those of you that travel, when you go to a hotel, be aware of how you would get out if you had to. I was just staying at a hotel here, and I was keeping track of that because you never know. So you want to make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. Like in a tsunami, you have to seek higher ground. How would you do that? Things like that.
If you're staying here in Santa Monica, I mean,
that's
depending on where you are,
yeah,
it is a tsunami warning part of the state. So, okay, Gina, did you have a question too?
I just wanted to say hi, Bonnie. I love your idea about the checklist. I think I could have used it last year. I'm not in a high-risk area for earthquakes, but I was in that East Coast earthquake. I did the absolute wrong thing. First of all, I didn't even know what was happening because it's not normal for my area. I just stood up and walked out the front door of my office, and that was not what I should have done. Had I read your book, I think I might have known better. So even for people that are not in high-risk areas, I think it's a great thing.
That's a really good point. That earthquake, are you talking about the one in Mineral, Virginia this past year? Yeah, it caught a lot of people off guard, up and down the East Coast, to have an earthquake like that. And you're right, leaving is not the best thing because people can get hurt by debris coming off the side of a building, which has happened before. You do want to get under like a sturdy desk or something and take cover. Usually the earthquake itself will just last a few seconds to a minute, but you want to make sure you're under something because something might fall and hit you. But that was a really good point. Thanks for bringing it up.
Okay, we have time for one last question. Trey, you had one more?
Bonnie, did you find when doing research for your book, did you find that a lot of people didn't understand what those warnings and watches that the Weather Service put out. They didn't understand what those meant.
Oh, that's
a
really,
good question.
I agree.
Yes,
And you know,
yes.
Maria, from doing the weather on television, we say, you know, a severe
Advisory
thunderstorm
or
warning,
watch.
and people don't know. So in my book, I actually have a quick definition list of every type of watch or warning, so you can just refresh your memory. Especially in the snowstorm chapter, there's so many different blowing snow, drifting snow, blizzards, and each thing means something else. So I agree. The one thing just to take away is that a warning means that you have less time to prepare than a watch. A warning usually means that this type of weather is imminent, whereas a watch might mean you have 12 hours, 24 hours, even 72 hours to prepare. A warning can mean just a few minutes.
Yeah, we say, I mean, when we have a high wind warning here, it's either occurring or is about to.
Exactly.
So that's basically what we put out there, and the wind's going to be a big story for us here, probably tonight and into tomorrow. Anyway, you guys, thank you so much. Those were excellent questions for Bonnie. Don't forget her book. Tell us the title again. It's
Extreme Weather, and I have a website. It's bonnieweather.com.
bonnieweather.com.
It's pretty easy to remember. So you can order the book there, or it's in bookstores everywhere and Amazon, it's all over. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks for stopping by.
Nice to meet you. It's nice to meet all of you.
And do
Thank you, Bonnie.
Get on Google Plus
Oh, I will.
and get started on
Do you
this.
mind if I take a picture of everybody?
Oh, yeah, no,
Smile,
no.
everyone. Oh, this is so neat.
Wait, no, come, Taco.
Oh, hold on. I'll put it like this so I can. Okay. Okay.
There you go. Look at the camera.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right. Thank you.
It was so nice meeting you, Maria.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have fun the rest of your stay. How long are you staying till?
I'm actually going to San Francisco now.